I need to wash my hands. They're getting a little dirty.
Oh my.
See that?
Well, hello you guys. Welcome back
to our channel. Welcome back, y'all.
Y'all,
I agree. I feel the same.
I'm excited for today's video. If you click on the title, you know that we're talking about love.
She always says it like that. It's the funniest thing. All right.
But for real, we're just going to share a little bit of our story of how we knew that we were in love with each other. How we knew he was the person, I was his person. You get what we're trying to say. And I also want to talk about what love is not. Maybe some little red flags you should look out for.
Yes.
And the difference between what love is and what lust is. Because they be very different.
They do be different.
Babies?
Oh, hey.
How did you know?
That's so cheesy. I just can't.
How did you know?
Should I break out my miniature microphone for this? Babe, you're going to freak out when you see this.
While he gets that, I'm going to drink my water. Because if you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm trying to make healthier decisions in my life because I'm very bad at it. And if you're an achiever, this water bottle's great. I'll link it below. It's like little wins throughout the day. Anyways, Bibbies,
Yes.
when did you know you were in love with me?
There were a few different instances when I knew that. Okay, I can't do that the whole time. But there were definitely a few different instances. And I would consider some of them actions that you did, like things that you did that made me feel in love with you. And then there were other things that I saw inside of you that were more character traits. And so it's kind of like a hand-in-hand type thing where on one hand, so my mom has a furniture business. And shout out mom, Urban Abode. And so she basically takes antique furniture and restores it for people. But she does not like to drive the big moving trucks. She does not like that at all. I was living in Los Angeles. Tori was living in Tampa. And my mom was about 45 minutes away from Tori. And Tori sends me this picture of Tori helping my mom drive the vehicle for her because my mom doesn't like to drive it. And I was like, wow, like she's loving on my family. When I'm 3,000 miles away, I'm still asleep because it was like early in the morning my time. And later that day, she sends me another picture where she's cooking with my dad. And one of the things that my dad and I connect with on the most is food. We love to talk food, we love to cook, and I saw her invest into my family in things that they love. My mom loves furniture, my dad loves food. That was a moment when I really felt like, wow, like I'm watching someone pour into my family when I'm not there. She's just loving on them and the things that they like to be loved in, you know, and the things they're passionate about. The other hand is that I had some baggage from previous relationships that I'd been in where there were some kind of questions I wanted answered. And so I like low-key watched Tori like a hawk. I was like, you know, like I will always say this, that people will tell you how they feel about you with how they treat you. Everyone can talk a big game like, oh, I love you, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again. Will it? Will it? When you do the TikTok sound, like, will it though? And so you need to make sure you're watching what people are telling you by their actions. And so through her actions, I could perceive that if I ever got sick, she wouldn't leave me. If I ever lost my job, she wouldn't resent me and be upset with me. And there was a handful of questions like that, which I can share later on, that were really important for me to perceive, to know that I knew that she were the one for me, because they were like non-negotiables for me, because I'm a believer of marriage till death do we part, and I really was in this for a long haul. So we wanted to make sure that we were investing in something that wasn't just like infatuation. Yeah. And so I had to look for some character qualities. And so I don't know if I did the best job answering that, but Tori, how did you know that I were the one and that you were in love with me?
You know, babies, it's funny. He totally had his answer prepared. This was Chad's idea to do this video. And I feel like you have like the perfect little like ding, ding.
No,
ding.
These are things I think about pretty frequently.
Bibbies is always thinking. Okay, but seriously, y'all, there's a couple different instances just like Chad, but I feel like some of the biggest things that really stuck out to me, and I think like he said, a lot of it has to do with we were in previous relationships and you realize and recognize like what you don't want. And so I feel like your eyes are very like open to what do I want when I'm like, okay, is this my person? And something I just adored about Chad, especially in the very beginning,
my body.
was...
Oh, sorry.
No. I adored that, like, he was not scared to have real conversations. Like, not only wanted to have them, but like, I wasn't scared to bring things up like I had been in previous relationships. Like, the only reason I answered him so bluntly when he asked me what my timeline was because I felt so safe with him. And I think that realization of like, I trust him emotionally was really, really big for me personally, because I think in previous relationships, there was a lot of talk and not a lot of action. And I would fall in love with like the idea of something versus like the reality of the situation. With Chad, it was like there was continuous, he would go so above my expectations, whatever ones I did have, because I just had never been in a relationship that I actually felt as valued as he made me feel like valued. And as a girl, that's so important. Just the intentionality that he had and the realness that he had. And it wasn't about my looks at all. Like, I knew that it was something deeper. That's something to really look out for. And I think at one point I was like almost like taken aback, because I was like, do you not think that I'm like pretty? You know, because he would not compliment me like on my looks for the longest time, because he's like, I don't want that to be the reason you think that I like you. And so that was a really big thing for me. And then there was this one instance in particular that I remember dropping Chad off at the airport, and I think a really, really big thing for Chad and I, and this is something that we haven't shared on YouTube, and I know a lot of you guys request our testimonies all the time, and we will at some point do that.
Yeah.
I had been in 2 like long-term relationships previously, and I didn't feel comfortable sharing my testimony with them or my story with them. And like 2 months into Chad and I dating, I was like, I have to. Like, I just feel like I have to with him. Like, this is actually going to be my person. There was this peace in knowing, and I was like ready for him to walk away. And it was like that whole peace from God to be like, trust him with this, like trust him with your heart. And so I think Chad and I have talked about this a lot, but there's really a difference in love when there's like peace over passion. And it wasn't like we didn't feel passionate about each other. We didn't like, you know, want to be close and talk and all of those things, but there was just this like greater sense of peace. And it's really funny because I actually like told my friend Bree, like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna marry this guy before we were even like boyfriend and girlfriend, because we had just been friends for so long. And I feel like when I had finally gotten up the courage to say that like I liked Chad like as more than a friend, because I feel like I tried to like not say that for so long, like we're just friends. It was like as soon as I said I liked him, I like knew I loved him and I knew I wanted to marry him. So it was kind of like this whole progression.
Yeah. And I feel like there was this hesitancy, how do you say that? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
For us to not drop the L-bomb too quickly.
Yeah.
Because I think we both felt it, but we wanted to kind of like, you know, your feelings can be fleeting. Let's be real about that. Like every relationship you're in fails until your last one. Yeah. And so at that time you're in a relationship and you think this is it. You think, you know, you feel that it's right. And then you break up and then you're like, oh, well, I guess my feelings were wrong. And so I think we both were a little guarded to make sure that we weren't going too fast to where it were like strap in for the roller coaster and let's just go. You know?
Well, I think that's kind of the whole, I don't really like the saying like fall in love, because when you think about like falling, it's like there's like a crash at the bottom, right? It's like this quick thing and it happens and it's like, I don't know, it's just like, I don't want to fall in love, I want to walk in love, you know? And so it's like...
I am deceased right now.
I'm serious. You know, there's a difference. There's a difference when you look at like biblical love, and like love is about what you want to give. And I think that that's like a huge thing for Chad and I when we realized that like we were in this to give to each other, to serve one another. I mean, the difference truly, if we're talking about like love versus lust, like lust is very pleasure driven. So it's like,
it is me driven.
100%. So it's like, what can this person do for me? What does this person make me feel? Like it's all you focused. A huge reason why we realized we were in love with each other was it was more about the other person, like how I wanted him to feel, like how I wanted to encourage him, like wanting to see his dreams come true and like all the things versus like everything's about how I feel. And yeah, so it's like a difference between love and lust. It's like, is it pleasure driven or person driven?
Yeah. I think something that really helped us in our walk in love is that, have you ever seen A Walk to Remember?
Yeah.
What a hard to watch movie.
It's terrible. I mean, I love the movie,
anyways, what was I saying, baby? What was I saying? Oh, I think something that really helped Tori and I is that we were friends for so long, which I'm still bitter about a little bit, but I feel like it really taught me to value you as your own individual person.
Yeah.
To where it's kind of like if you have a friend and they're doing something that you might disagree with. It may not be bad, but you may not just always, maybe they like a sports team you don't like. You let them like their sports team because they're their own individual and you don't control them. Mm-hmm. But I think what can be dangerous is that when people jump into a relationship too quickly, they start to almost demand this person to be somebody that they're actually not. And so I think with me just being friends with you for 4 years or something like that, I was able to embrace how unique and different you are in so many ways and accept that and encourage it, where I didn't feel like I wasn't trying to mold you into my image. I was, just enjoying how God molded you in his image. And so for me, it really did help me value you and respect you because I was able to trust you. Yeah. And I think that helped because a lot of people, whenever they try to force their own will on somebody, it's because they don't trust them. They think, I know better than you, so I'm going to want you to act and walk this way.
You have to realize, like, we are not in relationship with people to fix them. Like, that is 100% God's job, and especially if you're married or dating or whatever, like, it is not your job to fix your man.
Missionary dating is not a thing.
No. It is your job to pray for them, to encourage them, to seek the Lord for support them, respect them. Like, there's a lot of other things you can be doing outside of trying to fix them, right? Because we all have our own issues. We're never gonna, live up to the standard, right? We're gonna let people down, and that's okay. That's why grace is available. But if you're in a relationship to like try to fix someone or to try to like get them to your spiritual level or whatever, like you're in it for the wrong reasons. And that is a definite red flag.
Yeah. And on the topic of love versus lust, I think it can be really hard for people to know the difference. And I think the way Tori was explaining it was really great, is this me driven or is this the other person driven? Yeah. Just as an example, if you're a guy and you're watching this and you see a girl and you're immediately attracted to her, that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be attracted to the person that you want to pursue and be with, okay? So I just want to make sure that people don't feel like, oh, I can't think that they're pretty or they're cute or handsome or whatever. I can't, you absolutely can think those things. However, if your reason for wanting to be with them is purely driven by, I'm going to get them interested in me because they would look good on my arm or in so many other ways. And so that is a lustful thing versus I want to pursue this person's heart by how I can serve them with my life for, forever. That's like a real love. And I'm going to nerd out on this for a quick sec. I've talked about this before, maybe in our Truth About Sex series, I don't know. There's 4 different types of love, and I'm going to talk about 3. The first one is agape, which is just straight unconditional love. You see someone who might need $1 or a snack or something like that, and you help them out when you have no reciprocity in your mind. You're not expecting payment. You just want to just help someone out, right? Then there is phileo love, which is like friendship love, which is like, I scratch her back, you scratch my back. That's like, okay, there's reciprocity involved. This is where there's almost like a contract, it's a verbal contract where you're just like, hey, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to walk in accountability with you. I'm going to walk in love and service with you. Will you do the same with me? Then the third one is eros, which is much more romantic love, much more physical driven. And that is a good form of love, but that's one that should not be awakened before it's ready. Yeah. And so that's something that you want to make sure that eros love is a great thing, But you don't want to be so tempted with eros love that you see that this person doesn't love me unconditionally. This person doesn't love me as a friend. They just love my body. And you want to make sure that you watch out for that, because you should start off with super unconditional love, where like, oh wow, this person just wants to invest in my life and I want to invest into them unconditionally. I'm not expecting, they don't got to like me back. But then you develop a friendship. And then you're like, okay, well, I want to support this person. I'm going to make them a fun dinner and treat them on a fun date night. Or, oh, I saw that their mom likes to do furniture and she's scared to drive a truck, so I'm going to go help them out. And then, of course, it progresses, especially into marriage, into eros love, but you don't want to skip over those two just to get to this one. And the fourth one, I never remember what it is.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And just like speaking of that kind of love in terms of like what you want to give, and when you think about like who God is, and we only can love because he is first love. And it says in the Bible, for God so loved the world, so he gave his one and only son, and there's sacrifice there. And so if you're not willing to sacrifice for the person you're in relationship with, or the person you're in relationship with is not willing to sacrifice anything for you, there's no sacrificial love inside of your relationship. That is a huge red flag. Because when you get into marriage, there's sacrifices every day.
Multiple times,
Yeah, it's just like you have to remember, and it's a blessing. Like you're more blessed to give than to receive. And so everything that God talks about love is so countercultural. The world and culture is going to tell you that love looks a certain way, and I'm just here to tell you the way the world portrays love is not real love. It's not, I fall in love and then I fall out of love and now I'm not in love with you anymore, so now we're getting a divorce and I'm going to, go marry the person now I've fallen in love with. No, the Bible says you love the person you marry. You know what I mean? It's sacrificial. It's a choice. It's a choice to love. And some days it's easier than others, but it's a choice we get to make because we serve a good God who loves us. But we can't love in the right way if we're not first receiving love from the Father. And so we have to make sure that it's correct. Like, I receive love from God, and then I can extend that love to Chad. But if I'm not receiving this kind of love, it's going to be really hard for me to give this kind of love.
Because you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
I've said that before. If someone asks me for, a nice truck, I don't have one to give you. I can't. And so if you're not first receiving love and grace and mercy and all these things, you can't give it because you don't have it. In scripture it says the Son of Man came to serve and to not be served. And I look at that as like the Son of Man came to love and to not be loved because he was rejected. And so we just really need to make sure that we're not looking at people as what we can get from them, but we need to look at them, what can we give them, what can we offer them, how can we serve them? Because that's what love is. When you read in 1 Corinthians 13, where does it say that my spouse needs to look like this, they need to make me laugh this many times a day, they need to make this much money, they need to esteem me, take me on this vacation, they need to have this many kids? Where does it say that in there? It doesn't say it anywhere. No, it says love is patient and love is kind. And those are very different than, oh, well, I'm just not attracted to them, Because it doesn't say that in there. Like, love is finding this person where your brain starts firing little synapses where you're just like, oh, wow, that's the one. Well, that's your ego. That's your ego saying, I'm going to get this person interested. I'm going to make them interested in me.
Yeah, and love is like what you put value on. You know what I mean? Like, I place value on his character. I love the things about who he is. You know what I mean? I'm not placing value on all of his attractive qualities. Now, don't get me wrong, Chad's very attractive, but but you know what I mean? Love is like placing value on someone and not like trying to grasp something from them to like receive it for yourself.
And I guess as we just wrap this up, two things: stay watching to the very end because there's a fun little surprise. We forgot to mention that earlier. And second thing is, so I forgot the second thing because my brain is like a dog looking for a squirrel. And Tori just said something that I thought was really good, if you wanted to share it.
Well, we were trying to gather our thoughts, and we're just talking about how lust can get involved, and especially when you cross boundaries and you're physical, etc. But like, making love does not make it love, like just because there's been a physical interaction does not mean that like you are in love with that person. You might be in lust, and there might be things happening chemically that makes you feel bound to this person, but making love is not love at its core.
I think I remember the thing I was going to say, which is that I always say this to Tori, is like, I love you because I love you. And so if you're getting with someone for the way they look or the type of job they have or the family they come from or anything, well, what if they no longer look like that? Or what if they lose their job? Or what if their family disowns them? Or what if all these things? Now do you have the right to unlove them? And so what's cool about the way I let Tori know that I love her is that it's like there are things I love about her, absolutely. But if any of those things change, it's okay. And she feels safe to know that those things can change because they will change. You know, time changes. Change is the only constant in life. So why am I putting this parameter of saying, I love you because you're this? Well, what about when she's this? Am I still going to love her? And so I just go out of my way to make sure she knows that I'm choosing to love her because I'm choosing to love you. Then as things change, she's still going to feel that me choosing to love her, and she doesn't need to perform. Performing for love is not freedom.
No.
That's being a slave. Yeah. Let's just be clear about that, about what it is. You're if you have to do something in order to get something, that's not unconditional love. That's not freedom. Yeah. That's work.
Yeah. I said this in our sex series, but I've talked to a lot of girls who are in relationships and they're scared to not have sex with their boyfriend because the boy might leave. And I'm like, well, that feels like slavery to me. Like, that doesn't feel like you're free inside of that relationship. Especially when people are like, oh, you're just a slave to your religion and blah, blah, and your rules. And I'm like, no, I'm with someone who's going to be with me whether or not we're physical. And that feels free. You know, like, that feels like freedom. That feels like unconditional love. Like, if something were to happen, he's not leaving me, and that feels safe. And I think if you're in a relationship right now, like, the things you want to make sure you feel are peace and safety and value. And if you don't feel all three of those things,
run. You heard it here first, folks. You need to run. Is that it, baby?
I think that's it.
I think we talked for way too long.
Yeah, we talked, but it's okay.
We have a little fun thing coming at the very end, but thank you for watching, and thank you for liking the video if you liked it.
If this video encouraged you, make sure to send it to a friend, because maybe it will encourage them.
And now here's a fun video from our patrons.
Woo!
Hi guys.
Welcome back to our meetup.
So we as Sexies decided to meet up and have some fun together. And a big shout out to Tori and Chad for bringing us all together here. And also we specifically bought these tiny hands just for this meetup, just so you know. Also, lots of love and a big shout out to all the fellow Patreons. And if you're not yet a Patreon, make sure to become one to not miss out on all this fun.
Yes.